Hello, welcome to my channel. Today, I will whisper to you about Queen Victoria, the longest reigning monarch of the 19th century. We will explore her early years, her lengthy and impactful reign, and the profound personal and societal changes that occurred during her time on the throne. Let's begin this fascinating story. Queen Victoria's story begins long before she ascended to the throne. Born on May 24, 1819, at Kensington Palace in London, Victoria was the only child of Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, and Princess Victoria of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. Her full name, Alexandrina Victoria, reflected her connection to European royalty. Little did anyone know that this young princess would grow up to become one of the most iconic figures in British history. Victoria's childhood was marked by strict discipline and a sheltered upbringing, primarily under the guidance of her mother and her mother's close advisor, Sir John Conroy. This period, often referred to as the Kensington system, aimed to keep Victoria isolated from the court's political intrigues and ensure her dependence on her mother and Conroy. However, this isolation also meant that Victoria grew up with a strong will and an independent spirit, qualities that would serve her well in the future. In 1837, at the tender age of 18, Victoria's life changed dramatically. Her uncle, King William IV, passed away, and Victoria ascended to the throne. Her coronation took place on June 28, 1838, in Westminster Abbey. Despite her youth and inexperience, Victoria quickly adapted to her new role. She was determined to be a monarch who was not merely a figurehead but an active and engaged ruler. Her dedication to her duties earned her respect and admiration from her subjects. Victoria's early years as queen were not without challenges. One of the most significant events was her marriage to Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha in 1840. Their marriage was not just a union of two people, but also a partnership that greatly influenced Victoria's reign. Prince Albert was not only a devoted husband but also a trusted advisor. He played a crucial role in modernizing the British monarchy and supporting Victoria in her duties. The couple had 9 children, and their descendants are spread across many of Europe's royal families. As Victoria settled into her role as queen, the United Kingdom was undergoing significant changes. The Victorian Era, as it came to be known, was a period of industrial, cultural, political, scientific, and military progress within the United Kingdom. The Industrial Revolution, which had begun in the late 18th century, continued to transform the British economy and society. Factories, railways, and new technologies emerged, changing the way people lived and worked. Cities expanded rapidly, and Britain became the world's leading industrial power. Victoria's reign was also marked by significant political changes. The early years of her reign saw the passage of important reforms, such as the Reform Act of 1832, which expanded the electorate and addressed some of the inequalities in the political system. Victoria's relationship with her prime ministers, including notable figures like Sir Robert Peel, Lord Melbourne, and Benjamin Disraeli, played a crucial role in shaping British politics. Despite the evolving political landscape, Victoria remained a constant and stabilizing presence. Throughout her life, Victoria maintained a strong sense of duty and responsibility. She saw herself as a servant of her people and took her role as a constitutional monarch seriously. Her journals, which she kept diligently throughout her life, reveal a woman deeply committed to her country and her family. Victoria's personal life was closely intertwined with her public role, and she often found solace and strength in her family, particularly in her beloved Prince Albert. Tragically, in 1861, Victoria's life was forever altered by the death of Prince Albert. His passing left a profound void in her life, and she entered a prolonged period of mourning. Victoria withdrew from public life for a time, earning the nickname the Widow of Windsor. Despite her grief, she continued to fulfill her royal duties, albeit with a heavy heart. Her mourning attire, which she wore for the rest of her life, became one of her most enduring symbols. Victoria's later years were marked by her ability to adapt to a rapidly changing world. The British Empire reached its zenith during her reign, expanding to include vast territories across the globe. This period of imperial expansion was accompanied by significant social and economic changes at home. The Industrial Revolution continued to drive economic growth, leading to increased urbanization and the rise of a new middle class. Despite the challenges, Victoria remained a beloved and respected figure, symbolizing stability and continuity. The 19th century was a time of great change and innovation. The Great Exhibition of 1851, held in London's Crystal Palace, showcased the achievements of the Industrial Revolution and the global reach of the British Empire. It was a celebration of innovation, progress, and imperial power. The period also saw the rise of literary giants such as Charles Dickens and the Bronte sisters, whose works reflected the complexities of Victorian society. In her personal life, Victoria remained deeply connected to her family. Her numerous children and grandchildren were strategically married into other European royal families, earning her the nickname the Grandmother of Europe. These alliances were intended to foster stability and peace on the continent, although they also entangled Britain in the complex web of European politics. Despite her initial withdrawal from public life, Victoria gradually resumed her public duties. Her Golden Jubilee in 1887 and Diamond Jubilee in 1897 were grand celebrations that reaffirmed her popularity and the strength of the monarchy. These events were marked by parades, public appearances, and widespread festivities, reflecting the enduring affection and respect that her subjects held for her. As the 19th century drew to a close, Queen Victoria's health began to decline. However, her influence and legacy were firmly established. She passed away on January 22, 1901, marking the end of an era. Her death was mourned by millions, and she was succeeded by her son, Edward VII. Queen Victoria's reign had a profound and lasting impact on British society and the world. Her name is synonymous with an era of unprecedented change and progress. The Victorian era, with its advancements in industry, culture, and politics, left an indelible mark on history. Victoria herself remains a symbol of duty, resilience, and the enduring power of the British monarchy. The British Empire was a defining feature of Victoria's reign. Its expansion during her time on the throne was unparalleled. The empire's reach extended to all corners of the globe, and at its height, it was said that the sun never set on the British Empire. This vast network of colonies, protectorates, and dominions was administered by a complex system of governance that allowed Britain to exert control over diverse and distant lands. India was arguably the crown jewel of the British Empire. The British Raj, established after the Indian Rebellion of 1857, brought India directly under the control of the British Crown. This period saw extensive British involvement in Indian political, economic, and social affairs. Queen Victoria was proclaimed Empress of India in 1877, a title that symbolized Britain's imperial dominance and Victoria's role as the figurehead of a vast empire. The administration of India was characterized by significant infrastructure development, such as railways and telegraphs, but also by the exploitation and suppression of local populations. Africa also played a significant role in the expansion of the British Empire during Victoria's reign. The scramble for Africa, a period of intense colonial competition among European powers, led to the partitioning of the continent. Britain secured vast territories, including Egypt, Sudan, Kenya, and South Africa. The discovery of diamonds and gold in South Africa further fueled British interests in the region. These colonial endeavors were often marked by conflict and resistance from indigenous populations, leading to a series of wars and uprisings. The British Empire's expansion was driven by a combination of economic interests, strategic considerations, and a sense of national destiny. The empire provided Britain with access to raw materials, markets for manufactured goods, and opportunities for investment. Strategic locations, such as the Suez Canal, were crucial for maintaining Britain's global maritime dominance. The notion of the white man's burden, a belief in the moral duty to civilize and Christianize non-European peoples, also played a role in justifying imperial expansion. While the empire brought wealth and power to Britain, it also had profound consequences for the colonized regions. Indigenous cultures and societies were often disrupted, and traditional ways of life were undermined. The imposition of British legal, educational, and religious systems aimed to assimilate local populations, leading to a loss of cultural identity. The economic exploitation of colonies often resulted in severe hardships for local populations, as resources were extracted for the benefit of the British economy. Back in Britain, the Industrial Revolution continued to reshape society. The rapid growth of factories and urban centers brought about significant economic and social changes. The rise of a wealthy industrialist class and an expanding middle class contrasted sharply with the conditions of the working poor. Issues such as child labor, poor working conditions, and inadequate housing became pressing social concerns. Despite these challenges, the period also saw remarkable advancements in science, technology, and culture. The political landscape in Britain was also evolving. The early years of Victoria's reign saw the passage of important reforms, such as the Reform Act of 1832, which expanded the electorate and addressed some of the inequalities in the political system. The emergence of the modern two-party system, with the Conservative and Liberal parties vying for control, shaped the political discourse of the time. Prime ministers such as Benjamin Disraeli and William Gladstone became key figures in shaping policy and governance. Victoria's relationships with her prime ministers were often personal as well as professional, and she wielded considerable influence behind the scenes. Victoria's later years were marked by significant milestones in British social and cultural life. The Great Exhibition of 1851, held in London's Crystal Palace, showcased the achievements of the Industrial Revolution and the global reach of the British Empire. It was a celebration of innovation, progress, and imperial power. The period also saw the rise of literary giants such as Charles Dickens and the Bronte sisters, whose works reflected the complexities of Victorian society. In her personal life, Victoria remained deeply connected to her family. Her numerous children and grandchildren were strategically married into other European royal families, earning her the nickname the Grandmother of Europe. These alliances were intended to foster stability and peace on the continent, although they also entangled Britain in the complex web of European politics. Despite her initial withdrawal from public life, Victoria gradually resumed her public duties. Her Golden Jubilee in 1887 and Diamond Jubilee in 1897 were grand celebrations that reaffirmed her popularity and the strength of the monarchy. These events were marked by parades, public appearances, and widespread festivities, reflecting the enduring affection and respect that her subjects held for her. As the 19th century drew to a close, Queen Victoria's health began to decline. However, her influence and legacy were firmly established. She passed away on January 22, 1901, marking the end of an era. Her death was mourned by millions, and she was succeeded by her son, Edward VII. Queen Victoria's reign had a profound and lasting impact on British society and the world. Her name is synonymous with an era of unprecedented change and progress. The Victorian era, with its advancements in industry, culture, and politics, left an indelible mark on history. Victoria herself remains a symbol of duty, resilience, and the enduring power of the British monarchy. Queen Victoria's legacy is multifaceted, encompassing not just her role as a monarch but also her influence on the broader tapestry of British and world history. The Victorian era, named in her honor, was a time of remarkable change and development across many spheres of life. One of the most profound changes during Victoria's reign was the Industrial Revolution, which had a lasting impact on the global economy and society. The advancements in technology and industry transformed Britain from an agrarian society into the world's leading industrial power. Factories and mechanized production led to unprecedented levels of productivity and economic growth. Innovations such as the steam engine, the spinning jenny, and the power loom revolutionized manufacturing and transportation. The rapid industrialization also brought about significant social changes. Urbanization accelerated as people flocked to cities in search of work. Cities like London, Manchester, and Birmingham expanded rapidly, often outpacing the development of adequate housing and infrastructure. This led to crowded living conditions, poor sanitation, and the rise of slums. The working class, including many women and children, faced long hours, low wages, and hazardous working conditions in factories and mines. These harsh realities sparked a wave of social reform movements aimed at improving the lives of the working poor. During Victoria's reign, there were significant strides in public health and education. The establishment of public health boards, improvements in sanitation, and advancements in medical science helped to combat diseases and improve living conditions. The introduction of compulsory education laws ensured that children received basic education, laying the foundation for a more literate and informed populace. Figures like Florence Nightingale revolutionized nursing and hospital care, while scientists such as Charles Darwin challenged existing beliefs with groundbreaking theories like evolution. The Victorian era was also a period of intellectual and cultural flourishing. Literature, art, and music thrived, with many works reflecting the complexities of the time. Authors like Charles Dickens, George Eliot, and Thomas Hardy wrote novels that depicted the struggles and triumphs of everyday life, often highlighting social issues and injustices. The Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood and other artistic movements sought to capture the beauty and realism of the world, while composers like Edward Elgar and Arthur Sullivan contributed to the rich tapestry of Victorian music. In the realm of politics, Victoria's reign saw the gradual expansion of democratic principles. The Reform Acts of 1867 and 1884 extended the right to vote to a larger portion of the male population, paving the way for a more inclusive political system. The rise of trade unions and the labor movement advocated for workers' rights and better conditions, influencing legislation and social policies. The suffragette movement also began to gain momentum as women campaigned for the right to vote and greater equality. Victoria's personal life was intertwined with her public role, and her large family played a significant part in European politics. Her numerous children and grandchildren were married into various royal families across the continent, creating a network of alliances that earned her the nickname the Grandmother of Europe. These marriages were often strategic, aimed at fostering peace and stability, although they also complicated diplomatic relations and entangled Britain in the affairs of other nations. The British Empire, under Victoria's reign, reached unprecedented heights. The empire's vast expanse included territories in Africa, Asia, the Americas, and the Pacific. This period of imperial expansion was driven by a combination of economic interests, strategic considerations, and a sense of national destiny. The empire provided Britain with access to raw materials, markets for manufactured goods, and opportunities for investment. Strategic locations, such as the Suez Canal, were crucial for maintaining Britain's global maritime dominance. However, the expansion of the empire was not without its challenges and controversies. The methods used to acquire and control these territories were often brutal and exploitative. Indigenous populations were subjected to harsh treatment, forced labor, and cultural suppression. Resistance movements and uprisings were common, and the British response was typically swift and severe. The legacy of British colonial rule is complex, marked by both development and exploitation, and continues to influence former colonies to this day. The Victorian era also saw significant developments in transportation and communication. The construction of railways revolutionized travel and trade within Britain and its colonies. The telegraph, another key innovation, allowed for instantaneous communication across vast distances, facilitating the administration of the empire and the flow of information. These advancements helped to knit the empire together, making it possible to manage far-flung territories from London. As the turn of the century approached, the world was changing rapidly. New powers were emerging, and global dynamics were shifting. The rise of Germany and the United States as industrial and military powers posed new challenges to British dominance. The geopolitical landscape was becoming increasingly complex, with alliances and rivalries that would eventually lead to the outbreak of World War I. Queen Victoria's death in 1901 marked the end of an era. Her passing was a moment of national mourning and reflection. She had been a constant presence in the lives of her subjects for over 6 decades, and her death symbolized the closing of a chapter in British history. The Victorian era, with its remarkable achievements and significant challenges, left an indelible mark on the world. Queen Victoria's legacy is multifaceted. She is remembered as a symbol of duty, resilience, and the enduring power of the British monarchy. Her reign saw extraordinary changes in industry, culture, politics, and society. The Victorian era was a time of progress and innovation, but also of inequality and exploitation. Understanding this complex history is crucial for appreciating the impact of Queen Victoria and the era that bears her name. Queen Victoria's influence extended beyond her reign, leaving a legacy that shaped the 20th century and beyond. Her life and times offer a window into an era of dramatic transformation, and understanding her impact requires delving into the broader historical context of the Victorian era. One of the most significant aspects of Victoria's legacy is the way she helped to redefine the British monarchy. When she ascended to the throne, the monarchy was not held in particularly high regard. Previous kings had been perceived as distant or ineffective, and the institution itself was seen by some as outdated. Victoria, however, brought a new sense of respectability and stability to the role. She was a model of propriety and domesticity, embodying the values of the emerging middle class. Her marriage to Prince Albert and their large family helped to create a new ideal of the royal family as a symbol of unity and moral leadership. Prince Albert's influence on Victoria and the monarchy was profound. He was a man of considerable intellect and vision, and he worked tirelessly to support Victoria in her role. Albert's interests in science, industry, and education had a lasting impact on Britain. He was a key figure in organizing the Great Exhibition of 1851, which celebrated technological and industrial achievements from around the world. This event not only showcased Britain's industrial might, but also fostered a spirit of international cooperation and exchange. Albert also championed social reform and education. He was involved in numerous charitable organizations and initiatives aimed at improving the lives of the poor and promoting public health. His efforts helped to shape the social conscience of the Victorian era and laid the groundwork for many of the welfare policies that would be developed in the 20th century. The British Empire, under Victoria's reign, became the largest empire in history, and its impact on the world was immense. The empire's expansion brought about significant changes in the colonies, as well as in Britain itself. The administration of such a vast territory required new forms of governance and communication. The British civil service expanded and became more professionalized, and new technologies like the telegraph allow for more efficient management of distant colonies. In the colonies, British rule often meant the imposition of new legal and administrative systems, the introduction of Western education, and the spread of Christianity. These changes had complex and varied effects on local societies. In some cases, they led to economic development and modernization, while in others, they disrupted traditional ways of life and sparked resistance. The legacy of British colonial rule is a subject of ongoing debate, with some viewing it as a force for progress and others as a source of oppression and exploitation. The economic impact of the British Empire was profound. The colonies provided raw materials that fueled Britain's industrial growth, while also serving as markets for British manufactured goods. This created a cycle of economic dependency that benefited the British economy but often left the colonies impoverished. The wealth generated by the empire helped to finance public projects and social reforms in Britain, contributing to the nation's prosperity. The social changes of the Victorian era were equally significant. The Industrial Revolution brought about a shift from agrarian economies to industrialized urban centers. This transition had far-reaching effects on society, changing the nature of work, family life, and social structures. The rise of factories and mass production created new opportunities for wealth and upward mobility, but also led to harsh working conditions and significant social inequalities. Victorian society was marked by a strong sense of moralism and social responsibility. The period saw the emergence of various social reform movements aimed at addressing the issues of poverty, education, and public health. Philanthropy became an important part of middle-class life, with many individuals and organizations dedicated to improving the lives of the less fortunate. This spirit of social reform was reflected in the works of Victorian writers and artists, who often highlighted social injustices and called for change. The cultural impact of the Victorian era was also significant. Literature, art, and music flourished during this period, reflecting the complexities and contradictions of the time. Authors like Charles Dickens, George Eliot, and Thomas Hardy wrote novels that explored the lives of ordinary people and the social issues they faced. The Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood and other artistic movements sought to capture the beauty and realism of the world, while composers like Edward Elgar and Arthur Sullivan contributed to the rich tapestry of Victorian music. Queen Victoria herself was an avid reader and patron of the arts. She kept detailed journals throughout her life, which provide a valuable insight into her thoughts and experiences. These writings reveal a woman who was deeply committed to her family and her duties, but also one who was curious about the world and engaged with the intellectual and cultural currents of her time. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, the world that Victoria had known was changing rapidly. The dawn of the new century brought new challenges and opportunities. The rise of new powers, technological advancements, and shifting social dynamics set the stage for a turbulent and transformative period in history. Victoria's death in 1901 marked the end of an era, but her legacy lived on in the values, institutions, and traditions that she had helped to shape. The Victorian era remains a defining period in British history. It was a time of great progress and innovation, but also of significant social challenges and inequalities. The achievements of the era laid the foundations for the modern world, while the struggles and injustices remind us of the complexities of progress. Queen Victoria's life and reign encapsulate the spirit of the age, and her legacy continues to be felt in the present day. Queen Victoria's death in 1901 marked a profound transition for Britain and the world. Her passing was not just the end of a long and influential reign, but also the conclusion of an era defined by dramatic transformation and development. As the Victorian era drew to a close, the 20th century ushered in new challenges and a different global landscape. Victoria's son, Edward VII, ascended to the throne, heralding the beginning of the Edwardian era. This period was characterized by significant social and political changes, as well as advancements in technology and culture. The transition from Victoria's reign to Edward's was symbolic of the broader shifts occurring in British society and the world at large. The legacy of Queen Victoria and the Victorian era is evident in many aspects of modern life. The industrial and technological advancements of the period laid the groundwork for the continued progress of the 20th century. Innovations in transportation, communication, and manufacturing that began in Victoria's time continued to evolve, shaping the modern world. The social reforms initiated during the Victorian era also had a lasting impact. The foundations of the modern welfare state, public health systems, and educational institutions can be traced back to the reforms and ideas that emerged during Victoria's reign. The period's emphasis on social responsibility and moral duty influenced later movements for social justice and equality. Culturally, the Victorian era left an indelible mark on literature, art, and music. The works of Victorian authors, poets, and artists continue to be studied and celebrated for their contributions to the cultural heritage of Britain and the world. The themes and issues explored in Victorian literature, such as social inequality, industrialization, and moral dilemmas, remain relevant to contemporary audiences. The British Empire, which reached its zenith during Victoria's reign, began to face new challenges in the 20th century. The aftermath of World War I and the rise of nationalist movements in the colonies led to the gradual decline of the empire. The process of decolonization accelerated after World War II, resulting in the independence of many former colonies. The legacy of British colonialism is complex, with both positive and negative aspects that continue to influence global politics and societies. Queen Victoria's influence extended to the royal family itself. Her descendants married into numerous European royal families, creating a network of alliances that shaped the political landscape of Europe. These connections, however, also contributed to the tensions and conflicts that led to the outbreak of World War I. The intricate web of royal relationships exemplified the interconnected nature of European politics during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Victoria's role as a constitutional monarch set a precedent for her successors. Her ability to balance tradition with the evolving demands of a modern state helped to shape the monarchy's role in a parliamentary democracy. This balance has continued to be a defining feature of the British monarchy, allowing it to adapt to changing times while maintaining its symbolic significance. As we reflect on Queen Victoria's life and reign, it is important to consider the broader historical context in which she lived. The Victorian era was a time of immense change and complexity, characterized by both progress and challenges. Victoria's personal and public life encapsulates the spirit of this period, and her legacy continues to resonate today. In conclusion, Queen Victoria's reign was a defining era in British history. Her impact on the monarchy, society, and the world was profound and lasting. The Victorian era, with its remarkable advancements and significant challenges, left an indelible mark on history. Understanding this complex and transformative period helps us to appreciate the enduring legacy of Queen Victoria and the era that bears her name. Key figures of the Victorian era. Prince Albert. Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha was Queen Victoria's beloved husband and a significant influence on her reign. Known for his intellect and vision, Albert was deeply involved in social reform, education, and the arts. He played a key role in organizing the Great Exhibition of 1851, showcasing industrial and technological advancements from around the world. Albert's progressive ideas helped modernize the British monarchy and left a lasting impact on Victorian society. Benjamin Disraeli. Benjamin Disraeli was one of Queen Victoria's most trusted prime ministers. He served as prime minister twice and was known for his charismatic personality and close relationship with the Queen. Disraeli's policies focused on social reform and expanding the British Empire. He played a pivotal role in securing the Suez Canal for Britain and proclaimed Victoria as Empress of India in 1877, enhancing her imperial stature. William Gladstone. William Gladstone was another prominent prime minister during Victoria's reign and often seen as Disraeli's political rival. A staunch liberal, Gladstone championed many social reforms, including education and electoral reforms. His relationship with Queen Victoria was more contentious compared to Disraeli, but his influence on British politics was profound. Gladstone's commitment to justice and morality earned him the nickname the People's William. Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale is remembered as the founder of modern nursing. Her pioneering work during the Crimean War, where she tended to wounded soldiers, brought her national and international acclaim. Nightingale's efforts revolutionized hospital care, emphasizing hygiene and compassionate patient care. Her legacy continues to inspire healthcare professionals worldwide. Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens was one of the most famous novelists of the Victorian era. His works, such as Oliver Twist, David Copperfield, and A Tale of Two Cities, vividly depicted the social challenges and inequalities of the time. Dickens' storytelling brought attention to issues like poverty, child labor, and the plight of the working class. His characters and stories remain beloved and relevant to this day. Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was a naturalist whose theory of evolution by natural selection revolutionized the understanding of life on Earth. His seminal work, On the Origin of Species, published in 1859, challenged traditional views on creation and sparked widespread debate. Darwin's scientific contributions have had a lasting impact on biology and our understanding of human origins. Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Elizabeth Barrett Browning was one of the most prominent poets of the Victorian era. Known for her romantic and passionate poetry, her works explored themes of love, social justice, and human rights. Her collection Sonnets from the Portuguese remains one of her most celebrated works. Barrett Browning's literary achievements and her advocacy for abolition and women's rights made her a significant cultural figure. Thomas Edison. Although American, Thomas Edison was a key figure during the Victorian era whose inventions had a global impact. Known as the Wizard of Menlo Park, Edison held over 1,000 patents, including those for the phonograph and the practical incandescent light bulb. His contributions to technology and industry transformed daily life and paved the way for the modern electric age. Alexander Graham Bell. Alexander Graham Bell, an inventor and scientist, is best known for inventing the telephone. His work revolutionized communication and had a profound impact on society. Bell's other contributions include advancements in aeronautics and optical telecommunications, making him a significant figure of the Victorian era. John Ruskin. John Ruskin was an influential art critic, social thinker, and philanthropist. He championed the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood and was a vocal critic of industrialization's negative impact on society and the environment. Ruskin's writings on art, architecture, and social issues inspired many reformers and artists of the time. Emmeline Pankhurst. Emmeline Pankhurst was a leading figure in the women's suffrage movement in Britain. Although her most prominent activities occurred in the early 20th century, her efforts began during the Victorian era. Pankhurst's dedication to securing voting rights for women laid the groundwork for significant social change and gender equality. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Victorian era and its key figures. These individuals left an indelible mark on history, shaping the world we live in today. If you enjoyed this exploration, please like, subscribe, and follow us for more fascinating stories from the past. Stay tuned for more historical insights and narratives.